if you call it, their anger through issues, and let us try and seek reconciliation. Let's try and seek a democratic process. Let's learn to win, and let's learn to lose, and let's learn to look for leaders who are good losers. That you lose like the Ochenos, then you accept that you'll play second fiddle, even if it's to a terrible regime until next time. But that you learn to become a responsible winner, like UPC always does, so that when you win for everybody else. Young Ugandans, who now are the majority of our people, need to engage much more constructively in politics. But if you see what's happening in Kawempe, you ask, like Emily, Professor, is saying, is it really worth it to go and rally around Ocheno in Nagongera because I fear that the next thing will be drones coming to me in Nagongera? It's absolutely shameful. As I said, I genuinely didn't know that I would expect this at this day, this stage. And particularly final one, Oscar. If you consider the goodwill that NRA had in Buganda as they're building their foundations, and if you consider the proximity of Kawempe, I don't know who advises Mr. Museveni, and I'm here to give him free advice, and please, free advice. If I was advising him, you can still retain power and play safe and play nice without necessarily brutalizing people. The kind of advice I would give him to leave a court-martial alone to discipline Iran soldiers and not try and militarize Ugandans. Yes.
Honorable Robert Kasule Sewunya.
Yes, please.
Do the violence in Kawempe, a lot of people attribute it to the state. Do you think it makes your party look bad? I mean, you fielded a candidate. I think, is it Ms. Nambi?
Yes, Nambi, the NRM flag bearer.
The NRM flag bearer. If you have violence in Kawempe before a by-election, do you think that harms your party? Because people, Joseph here is attributing to NRM. He's not talking to Museveni
yes,
and not to the state.
This man is a god or something.
Yeah.
It's very good. He was in Tungam and in Nkole sub-region, monitoring, doing oversight on PDM, and generally going around the country. I think he had nothing to do with it. Police was deployed essentially to control the traffic. This is a small place called Kawempe, and I've been in Kawempe this week like 4 times, because we were preparing for Prime Minister and others to go and check on the roads in Kawempe, which she didn't, but she checked on roads in Chira. So I know the temperature.
There's a road back here behind Kamocha Market.
Yeah.
That one she needs to check it.
It's very urgent. Yeah, there are many roads that have been.
She leaves the road.
They need to have it by elections.
There are many roads that are under construction in Kampala of recent, and of course,
this one nothing is happening to it. It's terrible.
Development partners, one by one, will handle them, but the stock of bad roads is overwhelming.
Yes.
So I know the political temperatures in Kawempe. Just like we saw it on TV, the NRM, the party I belong to, was also shocked. We have witnessed, have been involved for almost 20 years in politics. We do nominations everywhere. This one was one of its kind, where we saw people fighting with the police. In fact, somebody said this was like it happened with Trump and Zelensky. Right in front of cameras. We don't know why it happened, but as we say, police will have to explain. This is a civil activity. Much as you are there to control traffic and whatever, why go all to that extent of putting cannons?
I've been given a correction. It's called Old Kira Road.
Okay,
Old
Kira Road.
So take the Prime Minister there, please.
Okay. Yes. I pass there every day. I know the road. And we use it most frequent in order to cut the other traffic of the Upper Kira Road. So this was a civil function even the Electoral Commission, if you started blaming them, why, I think they were not aware of what was happening outside. And police is here to blame of mishandling such a simple exercise. And on social media, it almost looks like a war zone. So it's very unfortunate, and we think going forward, the election should be peaceful. It's near town. We don't need that confusion. Even on a normal day, you cannot move in Kampala. If I told you to move from, yesterday I was in Luwero, but to move from Chigogwa to the city center, you take 2 hours. Traffic. And of course, the posture of the political players also plays a part. And at this point, I would encourage our friends in Nupe. You're enthusiastic and sometimes aggressive, but help the people of Kampala, the northern end of Kampala. We don't need traffic jams caused by excited, enthusiastic supporters. We all want to picket in town to show support, to show vehicles, social media, pictures and whatever. But if they say there is no picketing, please go to one place and hold a rally. It will not do you bad. And with the time I've realized that some people like these aggressive, enthusiastic supporters, show support, but to a certain extent, we need somebody to represent the people, all of them. In fact, we come with flags, but we represent everybody. I can't say I'm here NRM, I was in Parliament, and I represented the people of NRM. No, that does not work. You represent everybody. And when people are coming to you, they don't come with their flags, or they don't come with their cards and say, I am so and so, can you help me? I've lost a person. I'm here, I don't have money to take school fees for my children. Please, they come as people with problems. So they don't come with their problems with their party cards. So this is a person who is going to represent Kawempe. The Kawempe I know stems from Kawempe, the Kawempe of Bwaise, behind Bwaise, and it goes up to Chanja.
Very diverse.
It is very diverse. Yeah. It's not only at that point of where they were being nominated. So you could even say, after this nomination, I'll drive to Chanja, field something, and find my people, and talk to them. But what I think, and I heard on the videos, is that the candidate I knew, who is my friend for a long time, Narukola, of NUP, who turned the NUP 3 months ago. I know he was DP, I know he was everything. Who turned you? So I don't think he wanted to have a confrontation with police. And I don't think the police wanted to confront him. But because the managers of the campaign of Narukola wanted to picket, to go walk from the nomination center and walk to where they were going supposed to have a rally.
If you don't mind, could we say that really the lead people to take responsibility here are the Electoral Commission, because really they're the ones in charge of this process and they failed?
No, there's little they can do away from the polling center.
True.
There is very little, because as I said, this is a very congested area. They wanted people to come, and they limited them, told them in time, please come, maximum 4 people. Get nominated, walk away, drive away, and then have your rally somewhere. And they were not even in control of the places they were going to have rallies. So I think, and what I saw on social media was, immediately after the nomination of my friend Narukola, he wanted to walk, have a procession. And in the process of stopping the procession, the police was used a lot of force.
Brutal. You do not say the word.
Okay, brutal, yes, because it is what everybody saw. And unfortunately, that will play a big part in this whole process. But with the confidence I can say, everybody is annoyed, including my party leaders. why and how, people must explain. You must not have this blanket blame the president. The president is not a god. He can't be everywhere. These were people in uniform. People in uniform are supposed to behave like people in uniform. We have sang the song of professionalizing the army, professionalizing the police. So they should know how to handle such cases without meeting.
Robert, I have a comment here from a regular listener on social media. Says, excuse me, says you cannot deny one Ugandan to use a facility after nomination today and allow another Ugandan to use the same facility ushered in and protected by all sorts of security agencies. So it seems like your candidate came, nearly in Ahmad Khan something, and then others were not allowed.
No, our candidate came, got nominated, and drove away, and then went and held a rally. And I think there was no altercations or fighting of some sort, which is a good thing, which we would have wished also Narukola to have. Otherwise, it was not good and does not help at the NRM. And I know if we had no internal contradictions also, because we also have a candidate, a stronger one, called Kaladi, who is independent, who is NRM, who has also refused to get her. Okay, they have engaged her, but her right to stand.
Just quick comment.
Let me just complete it. Let me complete this one. But we are going to win this constituency without any fighting and violence. We can easily take Kawempe North. So we are still engaging her, but otherwise we are very confident that we can take Kawempe without violence, without using underhand methods, and everything can still go well. But otherwise,
let's get to the information from.
I just wanted to share information, which I'm not sure. I don't know if you watched the news yesterday. The independent candidate you just mentioned, Kaladi, was also crying about the brutality meted out to her campaign team,
to her,
by the Joint Anti-Terrorism Task Force in Kawempe. She even went ahead and mentioned names of the commanders. Maybe being from the NRM, she has the privilege of knowing those commanders.
People are camouflaging.
And so to say that that incident of the meting out brutality to Narukora is not an isolated incident, that there is a pattern of violence. Even for our case, it was preceded by the arrest of the members of the election management committee, the raid on our headquarters, and the threats from the command of the armed forces saying NUP will whip. So there's a pattern of violence which has a relationship with the politics. And that coupled with the fusion that we have in our country, where you are saying that Museveni was in Ntungamo, but he doesn't have to be physically present in a place, but that there's a fusion between his personality and the state of Uganda, that when you are involved in an election as his opponent or as someone that his political structure does not support, then the army and the police who have become by extension part of the political machinery of Museveni believe that they have a duty to make sure they stop you. That explains the violence in all these elections. Because what interest would the police have in an election? Police is not one of the parties in an election, but because by extension it has become part of the political machinery, it feels it is duty bound to make sure they stop you and give an opportunity to the other person who is politically aligned to have leverage over you.
Yeah, but we all know.
And in addition, I have here a comment from on X from another listener who's saying if Nalukola was planning to have a procession and was handled that way, how do you justify the procession of the NRM candidate?
That's what I'm saying, that the police cannot be separated from the electioneering exercise in Uganda.
Why not?
Because one, much as they're not supposed to take sides, they're supposed to. Of course, they're involved. We know how Ugandans behave. So the professors there said the environment in which we grow sometimes also makes the people who they are. Our youth tend to want to engage with all sorts of things. We know how the man said their supporters are enthusiastic. You know how they want to engage with the enthusiastic supporters with the general crowd. The police must be involved. Guide the population. Pass here. Do this. And once the Electoral Commission says, "Please come to," then who can sign? Who will be there now to say, "We have come 20 or 15 or 1,000"? The police is there to put those orders of Electoral Commission in place. It's not that when they say come to, the people will come to. They will come 1,000. So the police is always involved. What my best reasoning would be, let them not be partisan. Let them handle the population the best way possible without the violence. And everybody agrees with that. And for everybody to blame it on NRM, then the president, it's as if we sit somewhere and then command the police react like this, because we don't.
Maybe
know
that's what we think. Maybe that's what we think.
I'm in the movement. I'm not a simple man who stays in the village somewhere and I don't know what's happening. Nobody in NRM, nobody, even if you ask the Secretary General, that predicted what would happen in Kawempe. He also saw it like I saw it on TV. So to say that you, the NRM, you, the Secretary General, you are the people.
Okay. I'll come back to you on that one.
It's far-fetched. I think.
Let me ask
we must tell
Prof. Marashto here. There was a journalist that was injured. I think he has a damaged eye now.
Badly, yes.
Yes. And let me also just say about as she's coming in. What we saw on video was immediately the violence started. People started shouting, "The stones have started." So ultimately there's a possibility that maybe a policeman mishandled the journalist, or the stones, the volleys that were coming from the public towards the police and what they were doing hit the journalist. And that needs thorough investigation. We sympathize with the journalist. He must be treated. Somebody must take responsibility. And I think there must be an engagement between the police, the parties, and the leadership of parties, and in a way to control their support, enthusiastic supporters. And that is all I had to say. Okay?
Thank you. Yes. It's good that our NRM colleague, I'm an academic, so I don't take sides. I speak as objectively as possible. But I think it is not fair to say that nobody predicted that there would be any kind of over enthusiasm, if I may qualify it. Yes, I started this my submission earlier by saying that it is difficult to discuss this election without thinking of why we are having a by-election. So if you're a good election manager, you should be able to know that it would not be an election as usual, that there might be episodes of things like those that would erupt, and you would prepare accordingly. To say that it is up to NUP to check their enthusiastic supporters and control and whatever, where would that place the role of the security agencies who are deployed there? Because that would, and how do they conduct themselves? I think we must always think about the role of trust in all this, that the population probably is not at their best moment with trust, that they will always trust that the right thing will be done, that if they go to a scene like that, they will not be mishandled, that they should also go prepared to face something like that. And because of the fatigue sometimes people have over experiencing some of these things over and over, they might come actually prepared. So it's one thing to look at this as a one-off event, but also it's another to see the patterns of the past and see how much of this is actually a repeat of past mistakes. And if it is a repeat of past mistakes, then we cannot feign ignorance and say that we never imagined this kind of thing would happen. I think as we head towards and I mean the journalists being hurt, journalists are casualties in these things because they're human beings who unfortunately have to do their job in the middle of this chaos when they happen. And it is only a given that they are going to suffer some consequence when things are not handled well, just like every other person who might suffer those consequences. So issues of double standards are not new. I don't even, sometimes I was telling my editor last week that I think I should stop my column because I'm really exhausted. And part of the reason is that you feel like these things have been said over and over and over time, and you're talking about the same things, and people get tired. You begin to sound like a broken record. The discussion around these things are not new. Double standards have been part of our politics for a long time. Patronage has been part of our politics for a long time. And all of these other fearful citizens. I think the researcher you're mentioning who talked about West Nile and people saying that they probably should not just vote. In the past, there have been cases of people even claiming that drones are checking if satellites are in villages checking if you vote right or not. All of these things have been in existence. So let's just say that incrementally our politics acquires some elements of disruption that are not healthy for it. And when people have not been getting what they trust should be the right thing, they're bound to react a certain way that is not desirable. And it's part of the debate in the media studies we've had for a very long time, the idea that the genocide in Rwanda happened because the media did something about it. And in scholarly terms, you would say that, okay, the media may have played a role, but what was going on prior to that moment? What was being ignored up to that point? What were people dealing with up to that point? I think if you don't ask the why questions of the before, you're bound to blame this one episode and this one event and say this was just a one-off thing that was mishandled. But most times, there are very many signs that we can see, that we are interacting with, but that we just ignore because parts of them have been normalized. And we begin to see them as, these two will pass. And they pass, they go, and you go to the next one, and the next one, and the next one.
May I just
just before, Joseph had wanted to make a comment.
I just wanted to ask
just 1 minute.
This time, around Kawempe by-election, if you have to have good research, practical research, please get out and see the people yourselves. Otherwise, the fatigue is not only on the population, it's only on the professionals themselves. The police themselves may be fatigued. They must have moved this man from an operations from somewhere, then in the middle of Kampala, and then everybody is, you could say, is fatigued. And if I tell him, I'm a product of a by-election. I know the politics around by-elections. It's not only it doesn't only happen to maybe people now seeing. Nope. Even where there is NRM only, by-elections are always like a battlefield. So it is the population themselves. You can't say somebody brings the fatigue to the people. No, everybody around this time is a bit of fatigue.
Robert is combative as well. Let's stop for a quick break and we'll come back to you.
Rough Cuts. Fresh hits for Uganda. Capital FM. DJ DJ Nyowe. I am a warrior. Every Saturday from 12 p.m. on Capital FM. Fresh hits for Uganda. The Capital Gang on 91.3 Capital FM.
We'll come back from the break. This is the Capital Gang. We'll discuss maybe Kawempe a little bit more before we change topic. Joseph, would you question Robert here and tell him, because in his narrative he doesn't say we are going to investigate and find the people who are brutalizing and bring them to court. Would that trust come back, the one that Emily is talking about, that Professor is talking about here, if he said that?
No, he's not. And initially I wanted to Robert, to your surprise, I wanted to credit you with your ability to acknowledge that whatever's happened in Kawempe is unacceptable, and that the tone is one which cannot and must not be encouraged. Except that I'm also surprised that you reconfine this to the police. And so therefore, if you reconfine it to the police, I know NRM guys, when it comes to mentioning their commander-in-chief, people feel a bit jittery. No. Following this, the Bukeria by-election, that crude thing, actually, that was purely NRA versus NRA. Mr. Museveni came out allegedly strongly and saying that this kind of violence it has got no place in our polity. And so if he did so then, it is surprising that we allow these things to be unleashed on the people of Kawempe in a manner in which it is. And actually the important point is that the by-election is as a result of a death of a member of parliament whose death must be associated in many ways with him being tortured and subjected to torture by state security and state organs. And so it's not surprising, therefore, that the climate there is a climate of predominantly anger. But Emily, I think, was really wrapping it up for you. Oscar, last weekend, I was privileged to be one of the lead mourners of the former Inspector General of Police, the fantastic Inspector General of Police, Okoth Ogola, who was heading the police force during the last UPC administration when NRA was fighting. But there were never any kind of incidents like this. And by the way, he had a heroic send-off, just as it happens that today is also another former Inspector General of Police is being sent off. The point here is that I spoke to police commissioners, just like former Inspector Generals, including Okoth Ogola. Credit them and tell them that we are going to continue to campaign for mobilization and enhancement of resources for themselves and welfare, including making sure that they get training. But as part of that experience, I have actually continuously argued that the police need to learn community policing. And ironically, the other day, Kale Kaihura, of all people, was nearly boasting of it about community policing. So if you're doing community policing, you must also therefore include intelligence-led policing. And that's what Emily is saying. Part of the role of the police as the law enforcers should be able to know, predict, and in any case, prepare that in the unlikely event that violence emerges, you're sort of ready for it. You do not preempt by beginning to beat up people because you heard that these guys are very, very ugly, they're very angry, and they're coming from the other end of Kamocha. So you must whip them up. In a law-abiding society in which whatever you do, you must take responsibility and go ahead and qualify your matter to a Buganda Roads magistrate or whoever. It must be done properly. So on this occasion, it is wrong. But finally, then, if that is the case, I want a confirmation from Robert. Is it the case there, therefore, that we are saying today, and I'm talking on Capital Gang, and I know many of these guys and many of you guys are listening, are we going to hold the police accountable? Can we encourage our NUP colleagues and others, including perhaps Robert, your colleagues, Oscar, in the media? It's wrong for journalists to have been subjected to the manner in which the journalist was, and it's wrong for us
losing an eye in the by-election. Thank you, Joseph.
Are we going to hold these people to account?
Let's have Benjamin final comment, and then we'll come back to you, and then we'll change topics. But it seems that NRM has not sorted it out completely. Because some people are saying Hanifa Karadi is going to win Kawempe against the flag bearer of NRM. Is that possible?
Well,
So it's the
in Kayunga, for example,
is not very clear.
in Kayunga, for example, the results were altered at the point of declaration. So if you're asking about a possibility where NRM is involved, it is a possibility that cannot be ruled out, but not on account, but not on account of being voted for by the people.
Speaking as a lawyer, you should. Is that a fact? Is it verifiable?
Yes, it is. It is verifiable. Yeah. So but I think what the NRM cannot walk away from is the culture of political violence that it has propagated through the years. It is not restricted to Kawempe. And the other day, when there was a raid at the NEP headquarters, I was among the first people that reached there towards the end. Were 3 people. Myself, the Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi, and the leader of opposition. Now, when the people who had been conducting a search wanted, what they called the search, wanted to leave, they didn't want their faces captured by the media. What do these security men do? They started beating journalists. They chased them up to the roundabout of Waise, so that these people can walk out. The NRM regime has made violence part of their political machinery. It's unfortunate that for them, it's a normal thing to beat a journalist. It's a normal thing. There's another journalist called Ashraf Kasri. During the presidential elections, his head was shattered in a similar manner like the one in Kawempe the other day. So these are not isolated incidents. There's a pattern of violence meted out by the security forces, by extension, as an armed wing of the political machinery of Museveni. I think we need to come to a realization, especially for the people that are developing apathy, that this culture cannot be wished away. And there's not going to be, God is our God is a God of miracles. There's not going to be a point where Museveni abandons this culture, because this is the culture that has sustained him in power. Okay. But he can only be stopped by the people of Uganda through regime change. But without that, because you cannot, if food is what keeps you moving, then you cannot. If you stop eating, you will die. So this is part of what sustains the regime, and I don't think they can abandon it.
Okay, I mean, at one point you say that they can change the result at the
because they have done it before,
and then at the next stage you say regime change. So you're like presenting impossibilities.
No, they are not the first organization in the world to thrive through manipulation of electoral processes.
Okay.
But
no, don't look at Joseph Otieno.
But it never stops such regimes.
He's a lawyer because he knows whatever was said of UPC was absolute.
It never stops such regimes from collapsing. You know, in Tunisia, the man used to get 90%, but the population rose up against him.
Okay.
So the change of regime is not restricted to only the works of Byabakama, but the resilience of the population can make any strong regime collapse.
Robert, final words on this topic, and the questions to you are two. The one, are you going to call for prosecution of those people who brutalized others, who brutalized a journalist to getting an eye smashed? And secondly, your party doesn't seem very well sorted between the two candidates.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was in Kawempe, as I said, and because we have two candidates in Kawempe who are NRM, non-NRM, and what I saw is that Karadi was having more better traction on the ground than our official NRM candidate. I would encourage our officials in NRM to go on the ground. It is only 2 weeks. such a short time. And
When is the election?
The election is around 17th, 13th? March 13th. So it's almost less than 2 weeks. We need foot soldiers on the ground, not foot soldiers like in a camouflage of uniforms and berets, but people to go Kakuyega we know, and canvass for our candidate, and in a civil way. Please walk and because some of these candidates look new to the people. They have just so there's need to gain more traction, but also we condemn, we detest what happened to Narukola. It's very bad. I've known him, he's my friend, we talk, but what happened was very bad, and we need an investigation. And without missing words, I know an investigation will take place, and those who did what they did. But also, what is at play is that ever since social media arrived on the scene, we have seen security forces fight with journalists. Why? The security forces fear to be captured in action. And two, the population have also started throwing volleys. All the enthusiast supporters have known that when you throw volleys to the police, they'll respond with violence. That interplay must also be investigated. There must be negotiation. There must be engagement. Please, this is not the way forward. If in a simple by-election, in a simple capture, on social media, Uganda looks like a war zone, what will happen in a general election? So it is in it's in everybody's interest to control our enthusiasm, to control our violence, even the population themselves. Please stop throwing volleys to the police. You know what they will respond with. They will not respond with sticks. They will respond with the weapons officially given to them. So I think that interplay, it is in everybody's. I enjoy campaigning. I've campaigned like for 7 times through by elections, then elections, and I have enjoyed peaceful campaigns because you also enjoy it. You feel the people, they love you, and you enjoy that love. I cannot enjoy that love when I'm receiving volleys of stones running across streets. No. So
you organize a meeting for NRM guys in Chankwanza and tell them your good experience.
I have talked to the people. I have been in, and I've been of all places, an MP in Nansana municipality. But you have never had me. Stories being thrown at me, running across streets, being chased by voters, I chase voters, because what I preach in the population is, please, let us have the peace. People will enjoy the politics, people will enjoy this engagement. We have always called other party supporters to even come to our elections, and they ask questions. Say, please come and ask, because I'm going to represent the whole of you. And I think Nalukola is in shock. And even the bullies, somebody talked about Kalad also being harassed. She's also in shock because she doesn't expect, nobody expects violence in their campaigns.
Thank you. Emily, you want to, just a small mention?
One thing,
but yes, I have Edward saying the role of security agencies in the electoral process has always been a thorn for NRM. Overzealous and ill-advised intervention plays into the hands of opposition sympathies.
Yeah. That's correct, actually. But what I wanted to say is the role of social media. He says that ever since social media is here, journalists, most of those things are not necessarily even journalists. You know, when we were younger, I don't know about you people, I never heard of so many people dying. These days, I get death messages every time. I've grown up because I say it's because I've grown up and I must get the message. So before that, I thought people didn't die, but now I think everybody's dying every day. Why? Because I can see it, and that has happened to us as well. It's not because in 2001, 2006, 21 or whatever, violence was not there, but because the extent to which these things were exposed was even more limited than it is today. And the people who put some of these things on social media are not even journalists because they are in the vicinity. They are able to have the gadget that allows them to do what a journalist would have done. So I feel sorry for people who think that gagging the media is the solution. It's not, because we are bound to have these things.
You have really led very well into our second topic of the day, the media houses that went to UCC. Did you go, Emily?
No.
You
I am not an MD. Thankfully, I'm not an MD.
The teachers will be in the second court. The
Very soon it will be the teachers.
They also go
journalists.
because they're the trainer, the trainer of the trainer. So at one point they also go.
So, were you surprised that this meeting was convened in the first place?
No.
You were not. Why
I
weren't
was
you surprised?
not. I was not, because, well, it's my daily job to study media trends, and I have studied media trends for a long time. You know, in 2021, I was in a conference in Nairobi, just a few days to the election, and we had, I was presenting a paper, and then I was asked what I thought would happen to the internet, and I said I actually think they might shut down the internet this time, and they thought, no, you're being too much. And the internet was shut down, because the thing is you see these trends, you see where we are going, we see what sectors are likely to be captured when and next. Why? Because the media, unfortunately, people imagine that these things that are all over social media are a result of journalists in media houses. Most of them are not. I mean, our good Daily Monitor now covers, its lead stories are mostly on health, on education, on education. Yeah, their lead stories. Their lead stories today, Oscar, that I never thought 10 years ago Daily Monitor would do as a cover story. But they are able to do that now and expand, because most of the things that they would have focused on are now on social media. There are things that everybody is putting out there. So you erroneously go after the Daily Monitors, the New Visions and whatever. You think you have sorted the problem. You haven't. So for me, I have seen... The reason I'm not surprised is that when I saw people of is it called Patriotic League?
Well,
being now, integrated into government and, as ministers, you get to see the signs. You get to see where we are headed. You get to see the type of people being integrated there. Which sectors are they from? What is... People underestimate the extent to which this government plans and structures its moves. It really does so. And so I was not surprised. And I guess I was very interested in seeing some of the comments on, for example, pages of Uganda Media Sector Working Group. Even there, people are not able to really say, oh, what is going on here? So it's not surprising.
Okay, Benjamin, the speakers at this meeting included Brigadier General Kulaije, of course, the bossman of UCC, Honorable Nyombi Tembo, then the broadcasters boss Henry Rumba and Balam Barugahara, Honorable, who kind of apologized on behalf of government for the chaos in Kawempe earlier in the week. And for you, were you surprised about this call to media houses?
No, I wasn't, because there is history to it. And history has taught us many things. There are very few things which happened today and have not happened previously. Whoever wants to do wrong things must make sure that they do them under the cover of darkness. Because most people, when they are doing wrong things, know they are doing wrong things. There has been censorship here. It's not new. But now we are going into another phase. All authoritarian leaders world over since time immemorial, from Hitler to Stalin to Pol Pot, they have had a problem with the media, and they have wanted to whip the media to walk in the path of what they believe is the right ideology. Now, and that's the trend. there have been pockets of resistance over time, because to date, there are, and like Professor has ably pointed out, media houses and practitioners censor themselves. But the regime is not satisfied. They don't want to stop at not saying what makes them uncomfortable. But they want the media houses to sing the songs they want to hear. Like Hitler and Nazism, how every media practitioner was required to propagate that ideology, that this is the right path for the country and for the world, the anti-Semitism ideology. Now, the NRM...
Isn't that an extreme comparison?
Because Hitler threatened to hang, to annihilate Jews. Even here we have people threatening to hang people. So there are many similar patterns between that and what is happening in Uganda. So the phase that we are entering now is a phase of total silencing of dissent. Total silencing of dissent. So the training proposed for the media practitioners and media owners is intended to help achieve that. That when you sit here and you are a talk show host, or you are a writer, you are a reporter, that you are not only required to limit what you say, but you are supposed to control what you say, but also know that you have a duty to praise the leaders. And I think now they have brought you the right person to train you, Baram, because he has excelled at praising his master. So even you, the media practitioners, must be able to learn from him, and every day, before you start your show, praise the leaders and those that claim under them. So, and I think that is the direction. So to me, it was not surprising. It is the new phase, and we, in one way or the other, we have allowed the people who manage the affairs of this country, or mismanage the affairs of this country, to get away with so much that now they think they can get away with anything. The commander of the chief of defense forces, who is now the one that has brought this initiative, General Mhoz, who is the son of General Museveni, just tweeted about it. He said the media owners of media houses should have a meeting, Baram should coordinate this. And the meeting has been convened. Because you see, there are people like the chief of UCC that you have mentioned. For them, they have chosen a path of complying with every order that is given. Whether it is right, whether it is wrong, but what is important is whom has the order come from. And I always, unfortunately today we don't have representatives from the government and the security forces. I always used
we have NRM.
No, this one is from the party.
but
I mean people in. I mean the people.
Earlier you said the party and the
I mean people in the. I mean people in the category of the UCC executive director.
Yeah.
That and I always tell them that even the people who were running the concentration camps of Hitler, the explanation was that we have a job to do. For them it was a job. They would leave home and say we have gone to work. But what you're doing is it serving humanity or destroying humanity? And I think that is the question that should occupy the minds of people that are in these positions of responsibility. That if you are working towards total silencing of the media, because the media plays a very critical role. If you are silencing, you are playing a role in curtailing the freedoms of the media and other forms of freedom. That are you making a contribution in building the contribution in destroying the country? Because today's headlines are different from tomorrow's history. Maybe congratulating you that you have been appointed the ED of this organization, the rank of general, but tomorrow's history will record you as a person who was the architect of operations that made mothers. So you will always hang on your children, on your grandchildren, but it will also damage the country. So I think that trend is very dangerous, and we must condemn it. Yeah, that's my take on that subject.
Yes, but I should caution you that if you bring Hitler in an argument, you will certainly lose the argument. So because I think it's the extreme end.
Well, but you didn't start from the extreme end. He started from issuing threats to kill, and indeed killed.
Joseph, there are notes from that meeting, and the meeting says they want the media to be patriotic, conscious of security and insecurity, have responsible reporting, and also say you have the freedom to report, but maybe report responsibly. What's wrong with having a meeting like that one? Because Benjamin thinks it was probably wrong to have a meeting, and the conveners of a meeting say it was not wrong to have a meeting because Uganda has a lot of private media. So had we had government media, they'd also perhaps put out their agenda in that way.
Yeah, but maybe before Joseph comes in, I mean, what is wrong with it? There are so many things wrong with it. But the main thing that...
So many things wrong with having that meeting.
Yeah. Okay. So many things. So many things around the way it was convened and who convened it. Because it just tells you about the role of our laws. Because we have a regulatory body for the media. And yes, of course, it was the fact that UCC then came on board and became the chair of the meeting, the convener of the meeting. It sanitizes it a bit, but it doesn't make it wrong, because we haven't seen the order that came from the commander-in-chief that then the tweet was about. And then in a speed of lightning, you're having this meeting actually organized. There are things around it that contradicts our legal processes that govern the engagement of media and regulation of media in general. I think for me that is where engagement is not a bad thing, but how do you engage and who is supposed to engage on what matters?
And the purpose.
And the purpose of that. Because law is about, policy is about intention, the objective of the
media. Actually, we could just stop for a quick break first and then get you.
The Capital Gang on 91.3 Capital FM.
Online gender-based violence, or GBV, is real, emotionally and psychologically affecting thousands of women and girls in Uganda. Cyberbullying, harassment and stalking, non-consensual sharing of intimate images are crimes that must stop. Stay safe online by using strong passwords, adjusting privacy settings, and being conscious about what you share. If you are experiencing violence, don't stay silent. Visit WOGNET's OGBV support portal at ogbv.wognet.org to access legal help and counseling. Together, we can make the internet a safer space for all. Speak out, take action. This message is brought to you by the Women of Uganda Network, WOGNET, with support from Enable.
This week on Desert Island Discs.
My guest, Honorable Rachel Magola, there is a song, and I've been trying to get the title because I only know it by bits and pieces of it. You're telling, I think, is it a co-wife?
I'm singing about Margaret.
Margaret.
Yes. I'm singing about Margaret, who took my husband,
your lover?
who took the father of my children.
Yes.
That one, yes.
My mother has been convinced for years that that's a true story. That's why I asked, I don't know if you wrote the song or somebody wrote the song.
No.
She said it felt too real.
Now, that song,
yeah,
when we were growing up, we were about, I don't know what age we were, 6, we were bridesmaids. And it was a village wedding. Banana plants, banana leaves on the floor. You get
old school.
Toilet paper
as decoration. At least you didn't have cotton. As well, I had to anyway.
They were playing it on xylophones. Xylophone, traditional village thing.
Ah.
So I'm with my sisters.
What does that mean?
Where were you?
Oh. Oh, where were you? Obangai.
Where were you? That is where you were. Obangeyo.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
It's
okay.
like,
Now it makes sense.
yeah. So, you know, Wamale Nsera, Nesentoli wa Margaret, those are stories everybody sings. And it just grew into, I was looking for you, where were you? I added bits and pieces, and then we have this whole unbelievable song.
That's great storytelling at its best.
The Desert Island Discs, talking success every Sunday at 7 p.m. with Flavia on Capital FM.
Keep it locked, baby.
Fresh hits for Uganda. The Capital Gang on 91.3 Capital FM.
Welcome back from the break. This is the Capital Gang. Joseph, you were on microphone.
I was just saying that the media is the fourth estate. The first three states are the executive, led by Mr. Museveni. The next one is the legislature, parliament. At the moment, the person in charge is my fantastic sister, Anita Mong. And the judiciary, led by Owindolo. I always suggest that we, the citizens, we, the people, we are the fifth estate, and we are the most important. And so the idea really is that the traditional first three elements should be able to be independent. And we suggest, and I strongly suggest, that the media as a fourth estate must be independent. And that the four estates must be able to do everything else in the interest of the fifth estate, which is we the people. And this kind of arrangement is quite clear, that somebody under the executive is instructing the media. Everything absolutely wrong with this, and Emily picked it up quite rightly from my mouth, that there was everything wrong with this meeting. The meeting was not called by UCC. The meeting was not called by the Ministry for National Guidance. The meeting was called as a result of, in court, an outrage by Mr. Museveni's son, who happens to head the army. Now, where on earth does the army come what to lead on the process of what they're talking about? So if even at the heart of this were anything to do with hate speech or national security or whatever they claim, it's their responsibility to express, if it is in this case the army, in which case possibly would be the intelligence, possibly military intelligence, possibly civil intelligence, to raise it with the appropriate ministries, in which case I would expect Jacob or both to be the one to not raise this thing, basically it's docket, to contact, in this case, the nearest person is Chris Baromo, and lead on this conversation. So the fact that it isn't, you quite clearly know that we are a military state led by quite clearly one estate, and the rest of the four estates were basically properties of the other. I was quite outraged anyway, because this is a replay of what happened. And particularly if you look at the outcome, including this very cheeky and insulting idea that you guys in the fourth estate are going to be going for cadre training. And you know that I really reject that word, cadre training, cadreship training. It's really patronizing that you guys have no clue. And I wonder, are you guys going to be trained on what? How to spell outrage, how to spell anarchy, how to edit sentences and words, how to play objective and fair, impartial reportage? Are you going to be taught the meaning of apathy? Are you going to be taught the meaning of ethical journalism and reporting? Are you going to be taught what investigative journalism is all about? Are you going to be trained on how to defend yourselves against NRM military police if they're going to be treating you the way they want? No, the entire thing is really a process to prepare our country through intimidation, through blackmail, as I said earlier, and to continue building in the sense of fear, where a regime that after 40 years is losing track and losing traction is struggling to sustain itself. I think the media ought to have boycotted this, but of course we know certain media houses are owned by cadres, and in this case they're trying to basically facilitate the process. And because I also know, and I sympathize with some of the media houses, some of them have got to behave or else they lose their meager incomes and their meager resources, they lose advice, and it's difficult. But that said, I think somebody has to take a position. This is something which is really wrong and shameful. But do you know what? as way back as 1987, part of my victimization, I use myself because there's an academic here, as authoritatively. We saw it. As soon as these guys came from the bushes and Emily's were young, these guys compelled all heads of institutions to go for indoctrination program in Chankwanzi. So it was compulsory, can you imagine, for head teachers, heads of institutions, heads of services. A number of public servants who refused to go to Chankwanzi lost their jobs. So how they're redoing it
but
40 years later.
If government has instructed a civil servant to go to Chankwanzi, why would the civil servant refuse?
No, that time.
I mean, even today, like.
No, at the time, this is a bunch that had come from the bush, and they're saying that, well, you're a head teacher, you've been heading Mwiri, for example, the excellent school before you break it up after 40 years. Your job is to go to Chankwanzi and learn how to sing Nyongo Nyongo, yes, NRA, in order for you to come back and know where to get pens and know where to get equipment for your libraries and know where to get equipment.
I dare say you'd lose that argument as well, because if you're a new government, you want to project an ideology.
No.
Probably a new ideology.
No, but
so probably you
you
wouldn't have a problem with that.
No, you guys, it must be a contradiction. If it's North Korea, you do it. I'm also a student of
Joseph, you are very positive, but we also, some adults, we remember we remember a lot about it.
But they never indoctrinated anybody. They never sent anybody for compulsory military training to teach them what UPC is. It was never done.
A discussion for another time. Robert.
But I think every government cares about how the media behaves, how they project their information. Even the CNNs we see, the BBCs we see, somewhat have a particular narrative they are projecting, depending on...
They take editorial positions. You're right.
Yes. So I think it's time for soul searching. Everybody is trying to say what is happening. We have seen incidences like somebody who came to parliament to ban himself. What was his idea? What did he want to project to the population? What did he want to spark?
What was this desperation about?
Yeah, what is this?
Because it is not easy to
gun up yourself.
Yeah.
So many people are copycatting, and I think also in government somebody is thinking, what do we do? Should we have a country which just we give direction, not indoctrinating, but per se? Because as you said, I'm a Meridian, 311.
Good man.
And I see, is that not the T-shirt of the?
Yeah.
This is the one.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, for 6 years. So.
No wonder I've been having some warm spot for you.
I know. And we had the freedom to speak. We had to we debated. Yeah. I think, floating to even where we are in politics, we are a bit decent. So you want a country which has decent people. The narratives that go out in the media, much as people are free to speak what they want, but somehow let us guide ourselves. This country belongs to all of us. Even if you went to Chankwanzi, is different. You don't first think about what you are told.